What's up, guys? My name is Alex Wisdom of Florida Wrestling Insight, and I'm here with a very, very, very special guest, two-time NAIA All-American, 2026 national finalist, three-time state finalist, Michigan State champion, two-time Greco U20 and U23 All-American from Southeastern University, Lucio. Aaron, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here.
So let's just go right into it. You started your wrestling journey in Michigan. Tell me about what made you start wrestling, the come up in Michigan, because clearly it's a lot different from Florida, and basically how you started your wrestling journey.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, and I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. My brother just kind of got me into it, and it was just one of those winter sports. It was something that everyone did in the winter time. If you weren't playing basketball, you just wrestled, and a lot of the earliest age group is 4, 5, 6 years old. So that's a big difference from down south. I've noticed.
And you've accomplished a lot in high school. Not a lot of people can say they're three-time state finalists, and even state champions, and then
Mhm.
Fargo All-Americans as well.
Yeah.
You did all of that in Michigan,
hmm
and
Yeah, a big
then
yeah.
yeah, go
That
ahead.
was a big thanks to my club coaching and to my teammates that I had in my high school. As we see that now in high school wrestling, like having the right teammates could really make a big difference. You know, high school coaches don't get enough credit for like really what they do. But I was lucky enough to have a really good club coach
Hmm.
and surround myself around good partners. And we had three state champions in 1 year, and so just
Okay.
being part of stuff like that, I think that what really drove my whole like whole high school career really well because I had really good training partners.
So in Florida, we have South Dade as that powerhouse program down here and a couple other programs as well. Was your program a powerhouse program, or was it more you trained a lot in the off season to reach your goals? You brought your guys with you. Your club program was a big part of it.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily an elite program. It wasn't like a powerhouse, but we did have an elite level club in our area where it
Okay.
was specifically an elite club only. And so we traveled to the best tournaments in the country. And I think getting that right exposure as far as the young age and just like central regionals and transitioning to freestyle and Greco, I think the more exposure that I got and the more tournaments that I went to, and even though I didn't win them all, like that was the best thing that I could have ever done for my college wrestling and for my high school wrestling.
And you talk about, in Michigan, we have one of the elite national tournaments in the Grappler Fall Classic. So that's basically in your hometown where you get to wrestle some of the best kids in the nation. What was that like?
It was great. I've already wrestled that tournament a bunch coming up in middle school. I actually would wrestle South Dade. I watched a few matches back. I saw a few South Dade matches, and Florida was always one of those states that came up. And
Mhm.
we didn't really know much about them at the time, but having that tournament right there and on our calendar was mandatory for us. Like it wasn't that was a mandatory preseason tournament, and it was
Mhm.
mandatory that we entered the elite division. And that's like something that I encourage all the young guys, in Florida as it's coming up is like entering these tournaments, Scrap Fall Classic, and entering these tournaments like these freshman sophomore divisions and senior junior senior divisions. Like the best thing to do that was mandatory for us was to enter the elite division, and we got some of the best guys. You got some of the best guys in the country in that weight class. You know what I mean? I
100%.
think just that alone. Kind of helps you, show you where you're at, and that's what helped me a bunch. I was able to wrestle a bunch of state champions, get a lot of get backs that I lost maybe in a season. I seen him at the Grapple Fall Classic. Like it
Mhm.
was a tournament that everyone was at, so it was always mandatory for us.
So you just talked about your coach making it mandatory for you guys to wrestle the elite division.
hmm
When these guys from other states or even in the state, they're wrestling, some of the best kids in the state, some of the best kids in the country. What's that mindset, that Michigan mindset that you brought into that tournament and just in the season as well? State finals that you've been in, Fargo tournament that you've been in. I mean, you've said in social media yourself, have fun and let it fly. But what's your mindset to, really get ready for those tough matches?
I think really just when you're seeking the best and toughest competition, I think it brings something out of you, and it kind of comes down to training. If you have the right partners around you and you're confident enough in training practice, like you'll be confident enough in the wrestling room. So that's why it's super important to like have really good partners and just make the best of what you got. Because not every state is super deep that way. Um, but just kind of just getting ready to know that you're about to go up like the best competition. It has to bring the best out of you. Because if I'm entering the varsity division, my mindset might be thinking, oh, I'm already the best kid in the state. And so like the difference between wrestling like an all state placer or like a top 30 guy in the country, I think that alone has to like it has to flip a switch. And I think that's what
Mhm.
it did for me.
Yeah, and clearly, you succeeded. It got you in the right position, and now we transition into your collegiate career, and you went from Michigan to Southeastern University. What made you choose Southeastern University? Because being a state champ and a Fargo All-American and I guess achieving what you did in high school, I'm sure you had a couple options or a few options to pick from. Why did you choose to come to Central Florida and pick Southeastern University?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a quite a journey in high school. Um, I didn't plan to go this way, but I just say nothing but blessed by God,
Hmm.
blessed by people that came in my life for the right reason, and just an opportunity. Southeastern came and fell into my hands, quite honestly. And I would have never thought I would have been transferring to Central Florida when I hit the transfer portal my true freshman year.
Hmm.
And so I reached out to my coach Travis, and he was grateful enough to give me an opportunity, and we haven't looked back ever since. And so I haven't yet hit my full goal of being a national champion, but I'm excited to like meet people and connect with people and have people follow my journey of being a national champion this year.
So, few follow-up questions onto what you just said, but we'll
Sure.
start with the main thing. Coach Travis, like you mentioned, was Coach Douglas Peppers there at that time as well?
Yeah. Doug
So
Pepper
Coach
is a big.
Travis,
Yep.
yeah, so Coach Travis and Coach Douglas, what as a coach as an athlete, we need good coaches. We're the same age and we still train and compete at this time. And a good coach can really make or break an athlete, in my opinion. What have Coach Travis and Coach Douglas done for you as an athlete?
Yeah, I absolutely love that, man. I want to give a big shout out to both of those because those are both my guys. Um, just allowing me to be myself. Obviously, being at the right weight class is important, but I think they do a really good job of some of the best in the country of bringing the right people around you. Like from 41 to 49, I had the number one guy in the country who were my training partners,
Hmm.
and down below we had multiple time state champions underneath below me, and so like that wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been able to become the wrestler that I am if it wasn't for them bringing in the right people, and I think they're very aware of that and they're very disciplined people, and it's something I look up to them for. Um, but I think they're some of the best recruiters in the country. I think Southeastern is a place to be. It's in Central Florida. It's a beautiful spot, as
Hmm.
well as just being close with one another. And we got a handful of coaches coming in, a lot of new GAs, new assistant coach coming in,
Hmm.
things like that. But if it wasn't for those guys, I would haven't been able to do what I've done these last 2 years.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I mean, I've been following you guys, the people you bringing into the room this year, the recruiting class you guys have had year after year. And it's just like you mentioned in high school, you're chasing that elite competition. You guys seem to be the elite competition to beat, and you guys have one of the toughest conferences in the country in NAIA. You're
Mm,
talking about you guys, Southeastern, Life University. We got Kaiser in Florida as well, who's a top 20 team in the country.
yeah,
So you guys are facing some of the best competition, and we're not just in the high school level, we're in the college level now, where I'm sure anything can happen at any point in time,
for sure.
especially at this year's NAIA national tournament. So you guys face those competition, and you do well, and you make it to the national finals, and you're a two-time All-American at this point.
Mhm.
Does being the top guy or being the top school leave any pressure towards you, or do you feel any pressure when you guys are the team that's being looked at?
As far as individually, I believe like I haven't even reached my goal yet. So people who are coming for me or people who may see me as an opportunity, I see them just as the same thing.
Hmm.
And I'm looking to chase down the tournaments where I need to be wrestling guys early in the year before, so the national finals isn't the only first time I see them, and things
Hmm.
like that. But being in South Florida, it is hard for us to get up to the best tournaments in the country. But my coaches do a good job of we wrestle the Virginia Tech Open, we wrestle a
Hmm.
lot of opens. We tend to go up north as much as we can. But it is one of the trickier things I think all across Florida is trying to get up that Midwest wrestling or out west type of style and competition because we're just so far away.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said before, how much has faith been in your journey throughout high school and college?
It's been huge actually. Obviously there's always ups and downs, and it's something that I go through every day. But just this opportunity that I get to wrestle for Southeastern and have a team that I get to compete with. I have teammates that I get to build friendships with, and then most importantly, I think in the wrestling world, just connections with people that I would never thought I'd be connected to, whether it's social media or just phone calls or just wrestling, knowing wrestling. Um, I think that's something special, and I think that's all by God's grace, and I'm just blessed for like the mind and ability He's given me, and I'm just trying to do my best with it.
Absolutely. So your senior year, right? You've been taking up social media a bit in the Florida wrestling world. You've been
Yeah.
going to these camps. You've been training with some of the best guys. Pat Lugo's camp, for example, like we
Yeah.
talked about before. Um, you're documenting it. What are your goals with this documentation your senior year? Are you trying to keep it as a memory, trying to look back, trying to keep yourself accountable? What are you trying to do with this?
Yeah, looking back in my high school career, like back in Michigan, everyone, all the state champions were trained together. All the from we have four divisions across Michigan, and so the one, two, three, and four, all the state champions were all of my close friends. We would all train together. And as I came to Florida, I noticed that a lot of guys were are kind of separated by class. A lot of seniors, a lot of
Yeah.
freshmen, and a lot of middle schoolers are allowed to wrestle the state tournament, which is
Hmm.
something that is not allowed in Michigan. But I kind of just want to kind of create this platform where we can kind of continue to rise, like, and get those main and get the elite clubs and the elite pockets of Florida. And I think they do a great job with the Florida team, with the Team Florida Fargo camps and things like that. But just kind of trying to build a more of a chemistry, kind of get everyone to know a little bit of Florida because it's so large and from top
Absolutely.
to bottom. And so there's just a lot of pockets in there, and so as far as personal what I want to do with it, just continue to grow my brand and eventually just touch as many lives as I can, and that's really what I really want to do.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's very important. As you know, I myself also have social media, and I'm trying to, whether I post about a Fargo All-American, make a kid smile, show it to his parents, stuff like that, or even someone that trains with you on video, they can talk about, oh, I train with a national All-American or a future national champion. That's something that these kids can talk about. And have you been to the state tournament?
I have not. I've been to the arena, but I have not. I have not been.
Okay. Well, at our we do host an event there, the Kings of Florida and Queens of Florida, and you've seen these kids wrestle. What is your opinion on the growth of Florida wrestling and the competition and the standard that we've brought to Southeastern University for that event?
Yeah, I think first and foremost that this year's Fargo was an absolutely incredible for the group of that Florida
I
took.
agree.
They were top 10 in both styles, both women's and men's side. So I think that alone just speaks for itself that there's people out there winning matches. As far as what I've been able to see with my own eyes and through my experience at Southeastern and the Kings of Florida, it's just the youth development is really really high. There's a lot of youth kids that are getting into it. I think it's growing, um, and kids are tough and kids grow really fast. I don't know what it is. I always tell my buddies it's like something in the water. A lot of my buddies,
Yeah.
teammates started wrestling like their freshman year, like yourself. What grade were you in?
Freshman year, yeah.
Yeah, like freshman year, and then some of them are now top 10 in the country, and it's just like mind-boggling to me. But it just goes to show, like, if you work at it and you stay in it and you continue to go at it, like, you can be a non-state placer, and then you can be one of the best guys and national champions in the whole country. And we do a lot of the crossover with Division Two. We chase down Division One guys. I've wrestled. A lot of my teammates and I have wins over those type of programs and things like that. But I think that's what it shows, and that's what we're doing at Southeastern.
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned, the youth and whatever the parents are feeding them, what's in the water. I
Mhm.
think, like you said, the middle schoolers being able to wrestle the state tournament, I think that's a huge jump, especially because now the youth in Florida wrestling, especially South Florida where I'm from, we got a
Yeah.
lot of top camps. State champ camp is going on right now, and you see a lot of youth kids
Yeah.
wrestling there. Do you think, wrestling at your age from 5 years old, would you have preferred that maybe middle school in Michigan, if you guys were able to, would you have wrestled the high school scene?
I think the way that it's set up, I think it's the correct way as far as like not
Mhm.
rushing the kid too much. You never want a kid to get burnt out and things like that or
Of
get bummed
course.
out. I think nowadays the recruitment process is way later anyway, so I don't really think it helps them.
Hmm.
They can't wait till your junior year to get recruited,
Yeah,
things
exactly.
like that. So, me personally, no. But you'll have to tell me about that recruitment. What do you think would really help recruiting in Florida that you told
I
me
think
about?
I think, and you're talking about the college scene or the high school
Yeah,
scene?
the college and both. Just how do more kids get recruited, especially being in such a southern state where wrestling isn't it's growing, but it isn't its main. There's only like those few legends like Pat. There's only like those
Yeah,
few legends like the three timers and things like that, and so it's
yeah,
kind of tricky.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of great talent in Florida, and one of my goals is to bring an elite recruiting event to the Florida scene to make sure that I bring these top colleges from around the country to be able to recruit the talent we have in Florida because, these kids may not have, I've seen state champs senior year that have never Fargo All-American that go D1, and I've seen Fargo All-Americans that may not have a lot of recruiting options. And I truly believe that we have a lot of talent in Florida that just hasn't been touched yet, whether in South Central or North Florida. So I think if we're really able to get top universities down to Florida for an event like that, I think that would help these kids a lot. Just at least talk to coaches or have coaches see them wrestle or even have their parents talk to coaches for them. I just think something like that would be great.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
I,
Very cool.
and I appreciate you asking that too. With just the idea of what, we want to accomplish for Florida in the future.
Yeah.
Um, but back to Southeastern University, you've been here for a little while. You're going into your senior year. Talk about your teammates from this year, last year, teammates that really push you, that get your mind right. Who
Yeah.
are those guys and what are they like for you?
Yeah, I was absolutely blessed to come in with a really good recruiting class my true sophomore year. Was able to have a returning All American at my weight class, and that kind of that pushed me. And with the NAIA, you can enter two guys at the same weight class. So from top to bottom, I mean, we had guys. We had a lot of D1 transfers. We had a heavyweight champion, Gage Braun.
Mm,
We had his brother, who was a two-time All-American. 41, Cale Brisker was a two-time All-American. And so I was just surrounded by these older guys, a lot of them pushing 22, 23, and experienced guys. And I was just getting off my true freshman year. And
yeah.
so I was just kind of feeding off that and leaning off that. And now this year, this past year, I was blessed with really good partners. Mario De La Torre, who's from California, never a state placer, but one of the best wrestlers I know.
Mm,
Obviously, that California tournament's different.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. One
but
state tournament.
yeah, he's a four-time, college All-American, and he's now my coach. And happy to have him in my corner wrestling and coaching me. And I think we have guys that are help all around, whether it's like mental or diet, or whether it's nutrition, or
Mm,
whether it's strength training. We have really guys who are kind of in all avenues. So that's what really separates Southeastern, I think, is because we have guys who are able to pick kids, and they're able to get good at what they're good at and not have to
absolutely.
adapt to one style only. Like, we have a adaptive culture, and I think that's what helps our young guys coming up. And we have a lot of young freshmen coming up that I'm super excited for, and they should be excited too. But being a senior, I've been around a lot of really good guys, and I've been around a lot of guys that flake out, and that's just kind of how college wrestling is. But I think
Absolutely.
we have a good rebuilding class coming up, and I'm excited for all the redshirt freshmen that are coming off the redshirt to really make some noise.
Yeah, so like you said, and you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned this. Um, you said that you had D1 transfers, NCAA All-Americans, stuff like that, transfers to NAIA, and there's a lot of people that have the mindset it's D1 or nothing. And we talk about, I think when you truly enter the college scene and you realize how hard all levels of college wrestling are, then you realize that there's competition in every division, whether D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, even maybe club for a few
Yeah.
exceptions, there's competition everywhere. Um, Being in NAIA and then wrestling these D1 guys, Virginia Tech Open, like you said, or these other NCAA level guys, what do you believe that the competition at the NAIA level is like?
I believe being I love this question. Being a athlete that transferred from NCAA Division two, I wrestled there my first year, and we were a top 15 program. And it wasn't my best year, but I knew I was always capable of more. Because of what I've done in high school, so transitioning over to NAI, I never looked upon a division because of their rankings and things like that. But it did give me a lot of confidence because I was coming from a different division with a lot of quote unquote harder competition. But to be quite
Mhm.
honest with you, my hot take is that I always get asked what's harder, Division two or NAI. And I've been in talks with a lot of content creators about this, and I do believe that the NAI national tournament is one of the toughest tournaments in the country because of the transfers that we have. And if you look at all the national champs this year, or all the guys in the finals, from 25 to 30 to 33 to 41, are all transfers, or all from a higher division. And so I do believe that college wrestling is one of the toughest things that you could ever do.
Mhm.
And across all divisions, I think that the NAI is pushing top two or top three best divisions in the nation.
I could agree with that. I mean, I started this last year, and touching up on Florida wrestling and what I've seen. You see these three-time, two-time state champs, committing to the Southeastern University, the Life Universities, which is, super tough team, a tough conference. And, you see these guys at the national tournament, and, it's crazy if you really know wrestling and you study the wrestling and you know where these guys come from,
Mm.
how much depth NAI is really bringing. And,
Yeah,
honestly, I think I would have to agree with you. I think the NAIA national tournament is probably, the second toughest tournament in the country next to Division One. And I
yeah.
think if you put the NAIA guys, top NAIA guys against the top, D2, D3 guys, I'm I'm pretty confident that I think the NAIA would come out on top.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think I am right with you. I believe week to week, with being in Florida, I think a lot of the competition can tend to weaken at times. And up north, you're gonna naturally have those Midwest schools in PA and Michigan and Ohio, where week to week you might find yourself in a battle, more
Hmm.
of an every week battle. But when it comes to national tournament, you're getting the best guys from everywhere, and that's why I believe that tournament's tougher than the Division II tournament. Although I've never wrestled it, I was ranked fifth in the country at Division II, before having medically forfeit out of a tournament.
Hmm.
Um, but I was able to wrestle top 10 guys week to week, week to week, week to week, and it was something that I did. And so transitioning over these last 2 years, um, it does nothing's changed. It's the same. It's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's wrestlers that do the highest level of wrestling at every level, and then when you
Yeah,
get to that national tournament, you have the highest level of wrestling.
yeah.
Um, on Florida wrestling, you said that I think we touched up on this, but want to go a little more in depth.
Mhm.
Um, how have you seen the growth from when you got here your freshman year to now? Where do you see Florida as a top state in the country? Where do you see them top 15, top 10? Where do you see them as a country right now, as a state in the country?
I think being here for 2.5 years, it's kind of tricky. There's been some more people here longer than me, but I think the Fargo results speak for itself.
Mm,
Obviously, there's like the big powerhouses and in the pockets that we spoke about before, but I think as far as like the development, I
mm,
think it's starting to become more normal to be elite, and I don't think that was something that was very common. So I think like the more that transitions over to the new College of Florida, opening up, and now we have four NAIA
absolutely.
programs in Florida. I think it's gonna kind of force kids to play with the elite guys and from all over the country, and so I think just that alone is gonna kind of raise the expectation of like, oh, I if I want to do well, I gotta work hard.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think, with the new College of Florida opening, which is a huge opportunity for Florida wrestling in general, these kids got a couple options, whether close to home or whether just look into, anything. Anything could be a result of where they want to end up. It's a new opportunity to just get more competition and more kids. And for the young wrestlers that are looking to wrestle in college or that know you and, you've been around, these kids know who you are. What's your piece of advice for them? A piece of advice that you would give them, whether, had a bad state tournament going into their senior year, anxiety, or even just wrestling in college themselves.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is not trying to focus too much on high school accomplishments. Like continue to practice, continue to find elite level partners. I think that's gonna help. And then maybe it's a 30-minute drive or maybe it's a 20-minute drive. But my coach would always tell me everyone in college is a state champion, and it's quite true. Every person that I've had around me or
Mhm.
trained with me are state champions from different states. Um, and I would just say, um, being able to confidence comes from training. That's the main thing. Confidence is going to come from
Mhm.
training, and it can't be hollow. It has to be something that that you're wrestling hard, and maybe you're not given the opportunity to wrestle in an elite level club. But I think um, picking up a rock and lifting it, or going on a run and finding a way. And my coach Patrick would always tell me, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. And so just continue
Absolutely.
to believe in it, and continue to go to practice, continue to get good grades. I think the more good grades you can get as a youth athlete, it's gonna give yourself a lot more opportunities with school and academically.
Absolutely. I think in my opinion, I believe that you could be a great wrestler and your GPA. has a lot of effect of where you're going to end up. And even if you're a phenomenal wrestler and you do end up at that top level D1 school, how academically are you going to be challenged when you get to those top universities? And
Yeah,
it's really something to look at. I believe that's a little overlooked as well. Being a top athlete, you
yeah,
put your whole life on wrestling. I really want to wrestle D1, and that your grades have a huge impact on that. Um, for yourself, let's talk about your senior year. Obviously national champ, but what other things are we trying to accomplish? Whether it's, going to these big tournaments like the US Open
yeah.
or trying to make a world team. What are we trying to accomplish? What is Aaron Lucio trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question. I know I want to compete. Wrestling has been a big part of my life, and it's something that keeps me grounded, and I know that I have to do it to become the best version of myself. Obviously, my life is bigger than wrestling, but my goals in wrestling is to become a world team member at 60 kilograms in Greco Roman wrestling. Whether I've been close with the U23 World Team trials and taken fourth and fifth these last 2 years, and so I'm just trying to venture out my options with my citizenship with Mexico and seeing if that's an
Mm.
opportunity, if a dream that I can chase. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the right spot to continue training and get back to wrestling that's given so much to me. But I won't stop until I make that world team.
Absolutely. And I love that. You see a lot of guys now, RBY was someone that really put that on the map when he was, transitioning to Mexico for the world team, trying to make the Olympics. And now you see a lot of guys wrestling for Team Puerto Rico, Mexico, for example, even, guys in the country wrestling just for all these other countries. Um, and that just really, even opens up the wrestling world more to how much your competition is going to be. Um, but now let's go into a little more of a fun question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Who who was the best opponent you've ever wrestled? Whether through high school, whether through college, who is the best guy you've ever wrestled? Could be your
Um,
teammate.
Best guy I've ever wrestled. Man, without trying to give some credit to them because if they were pretty good, they probably beat me up. Um, I gotta give a shout out to Caden Horwath from Michigan,
Hmm.
and some Michigan guys and Jackson Bloom as well. Both guys I'm familiar with that I was on teams with and trained with a bunch. But those are just some two hard nosed pace kids. Um, and I think as I was coming up, I could never figure out how to beat these guys, and it was just because they figured out that pace is important, and so I was never in the best shape, and I think that's why they were able to get me. But I think it's like the younger kids looking out for some type of advice and always trying to hit these flashy moves. I think if you can just stay on a guy's head, I think guys will remember that, and I think that's why I remember them because they were just faking and moving and faking. I was like, man, I'm tired. Like, what's up with these guys? You know?
If you wrestle and you take a couple hard clubs for 6 minutes straight, I think that's something we can relate on to where like it's hard to forget that guy that you're done with the match whether you win or lost and you're like, damn, like I cannot breathe right now. Like I need
Yeah.
some water.
Those are some shout out to my Michigan guys too. I mean, I gotta
Yeah.
give a shout out to my Michigan guys because some I feel like they were just levels above everyone as they were coming in as people were as for like wrestling was gaining traction, the reattacks and drags and backside drags and
Mhm.
arm drivs and tilts. Those are, shout out to those guys. I
Yeah.
like to get that
Yeah.
match back, but shout out to those guys.
Shout out to those guys. Shout out to those guys. Hopefully they watch this too.
Yeah,
So, what's your favorite match of your career so far? One match you'll never forget.
one match I'll never forget. Man, I've wrestled a lot. I've wrestled a lot of tournaments. I would just say, honestly, I couldn't pick one, but I could tell you why. Some of the Fargo All American medal rounds and Grapple Fall Classic, All American rounds and U.S.
Mm.
Open, where I had a few really big wins over some D1 opponents. Why there was my big ones because I feel like they were a long time coming, and I always knew that I could do it. But I think they were just my favorite because I knew that I was doing something good and I was traveling the country and I was having fun. I think traveling the country was a big part of my life, and I couldn't be
Mm.
more grateful to my coaches and to my mom and to my family that helped me get there. But I don't have a one in mind. I mean, I just so many matches.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen clips of the SEU home meets. They get pretty loud. Those guys get
Yeah,
pretty intense. So that's
yeah,
an exciting environment to be in. And then I'm sure, when you get that All-American status at the US Open or like you said in high school, Grappler Fall Classic, Fargo, that's accomplishment feeling. That's good. So, to be in those environments, that's awesome. And then last question, describe Aaron Lucio in 3 words.
Mm. I would say adaptive, smart, friendly.
Adaptive, smart, and friendly. And besides the friendly part, adaptive and smart explains your wrestling too. So, you know, you can you don't want to be would you consider yourself an aggressive wrestler?
Yeah, it's one of those tricky things. I want you to put this in here too, man, because it's one of those tricky things where I like to be friendly. I like to have be buddies with my teammates, and um,
Mm,
but there is something different that comes out of me when I am trying to compete, or whether I am just hand fighting on a football field, or I'm hand fighting you in a wrestling match. Like I am trying to make you feel that I'm in front of you. I'm trying to club you hard. I'm trying to get in your arm. Like I'm trying to squeeze you, and I think that sometimes carries off the mat in my everyday life, where
mm.
I find myself like super tensed up and like I'm almost ready to hand fight someone. I'm like, oh no, man, I need to calm down or something.
You need to chill. You need to separate wrestling from real life. It's
Yeah,
it's
so
different.
I'm super friendly, but I think a lot of times people think that I'm super serious and I'm super
Mm,
aggressive. But that's only on the wrestling mat where I can really get that flip switch. But other than that, I like
mm.
to think of myself as a friendly guy, but I have to be careful.
Awesome. So if we see Aaron Lucio in person, it's don't be afraid to say what's up.
Yeah, a lot of people think that I don't speak much, or in tournament settings and tournament styles. I'm not really there to speak. I'm there to win matches, and if I'm taking second or third, there's nothing for me to be smiling about. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
There you
so,
go.
yeah,
That's awesome. All right. Well, Aaron, I really appreciate you taking your time to, do this interview, really give an insight to about yourself and to Florida wrestling members watching this right now. And any other last words before we go?
I would just say to all the Florida wrestlers, that's kind of where I'm going to be stationed at for the next few years. I see myself. I would never thought I would have been there, but continuing to seek out those schools, and don't let those power schools kind of become isolated. I think that as a state, we need to kind of come together as coaches, as media. Um, as media guys, we kind of need to bring that together. So just kind of try to seek all that Central Florida, North Florida, South Florida.
Hmm.
Be willing to take that risk, take that drive, because you never know who you can meet by one drive.
Awesome. Awesome. I agree too, completely. Aaron, I really appreciate it. Again, thank you for your time. And to everyone watching this, whether you're watching this in the morning, afternoon, or night, y'all stay blessed and y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Appreciate it.